Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mun Larimer. I'm running for President of the United States in 2020. Trying a new look today. Hope you guys are appeased with it, since everyone who is responsible for putting our nation in $20 trillion in debt and incarcerating 20% of the world's, holding 20% of the world's criminals in prison, or a similar outfit. So, today's topic is going to be about education. It's actually going to be a two-part video because I want to revamp basic education, and I want to offer free higher education. Those are two very large subjects, and we're going to start with the first part, where we revamp basic education. Kindergarten through 8th grade doesn't need to change a whole lot, not to my knowledge, and I'm open for conversation on that. Maybe 8th grade, maybe 7th grade, maybe change just a little bit, but to my knowledge, we don't need to change too much there. All this is in reference to 9th grade to 12th grade. Okay, so our basic English, math, science, history, that still needs to be taught. Okay. As far as math is concerned, we need basic math skills, geometry, budgeting. Firmly believe that our youth needs to learn how to budget their money so that as they grow into adults, they don't fall into traps, deep financial traps, and not know how to get out of them. Where a class on budgeting your money teach people how to live below their means in case something bad happens. Science, biology, basic biology would be required. Basic science would be required so people could test the fields and see if they're really interested in chemistry. But chemistry would not be required. Everything that I'm saying would be required. Anyway, in science would be biology, and a class that I call symbiote systems. And what that is learning how different systems affect systems outside of themselves. So, for example, if bees become extinct, how does that affect the rest of the world, or just humanity in itself? How does one life affect another? Or I should say one species affect another. Moving on to history. I believe being more cultured would allow our youth to be more acceptable towards one another and grow up to be mature adults who don't breed more and more hatred. And we can weed it out through the teaching of history. And the different segments of history that I want to be taught would be American, African, Asian, European, South American, and North American. North America history would encompass all of North America, but it would not focus on America itself, United States of America, Canada, Mexico, and every other nation in North America. Also, current events would encompass 10%, the first roughly 10%, maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes of class, out of every one of those, because our kids need to not only learn about history, but they need to learn about the present, knowing that in the future, the present becomes the past, becomes history. Okay, moving on. I want a class to teach people how to exercise without using weights. We have an obesity problem, and the best way to combat that is through school. I don't want to force kids to exercise beyond their means. That is not the purpose of this class. It is just to teach children how to exercise healthily and effectively. And if they begin to have a problem with their bodies, they can address that with a teacher who has an understanding about the working body, and maybe they can catch something early on in life, which would not manifest itself in a much larger problem, but it can teach people how to become healthier and how to just tolerate exercise for 30 minutes a day. It would not be an extension of gym or anything like that, not at all. It would be its own separate class. Healthy cooking would be another class, not home ec necessarily, but healthy cooking where you take a class in high school, this is all in high school, where you learn how to cook vegan meals that actually taste good. Vegetarian meals that taste good, and maybe some fish and chicken dinners as well. But healthy cooking so that people understand that they don't need to go out and get a cheeseburger on their way somewhere. They can just grab a banana from home. Not that that's really cooking, mind you, but it would really help the obesity problem and the health issues, which would bring down the healthcare costs. Both a class in exercise and a class in healthy cooking would bring down the cost of healthcare because people would be healthier and need less healthcare. The class on police interaction, I've already touched on this once before concerning police relations. It's in that video. Sorry about that. But basically just teach people how to interact with police, become a better citizen, a better witness, how to act when you get pulled over, how to not act, just basic police interaction. It could really stem off a lot of issues that we have between the populace and the police. Moving on, diversity and equality, one class, where we learn that it's okay to be different. It's, everybody has a purpose, but we're all equal. Just because you play football and you're a large individual, yeah, you can physically dominate somebody who doesn't work out, who, they just go to the exercise class just to learn how to exercise, and they don't really take it serious, but they're really intelligent. Both people have a place in society, and both people can be really effective members of society. We should not look down on one another because of our differences, but look at each other as equals, whereas one person excels in one area of strength, the other person excels in the other area of intelligence. Even if a person is stronger and more intelligent, doesn't mean that they're a better person. The other person can be very, very caring, extremely courteous, and that goes a real long way with a lot of people. So, a class that teaches people how it's okay to be different and be comfortable in your own skin. And speaking of skin, it would also cover racism, and it'd be a great tool to combat racial disparity. And that in itself is really important because so many politicians want to look at you and say, hey, I'm really sorry for your loss. Things like this shouldn't happen. When one group of people attack another group of people, it most publicized would be a group of white people who gang up on a black person and kill the white person, or it's just a one-on-one, whatever the case may be. But it happens in all forms. Latinos against blacks, blacks against blacks, and that doesn't sound like it's a racial thing either, but that's because a lot of people who aren't black don't understand that there is a sub-racism between light-skinned black people and dark-skinned black people, and some of it can get pretty serious. But at any rate, this class would teach that everyone is equal, and just because you look different and you may act different, you're really not. Okay, everybody has the same passions and desires in general. This class would teach that. I don't believe in uniformity. I think that everyone has a right to be different, and that's what the class needs to focus on: is to be yourself, but allow others to be themselves as well. Anyway, moving on. Entrepreneurship. I want all of our kids to learn how to start and run a business, even if they do it as a class. That could be a subset project within the class, but these kids need to learn how to do it on their own. That way they can open a concrete business. They can open up a plumbing business, an accounting firm. If they want to become doctors, they can learn how to open their own practice. And with a budgeting class under their belt, yeah, it's not a college level budgeting class, but they have some idea. That way, we don't have to depend on large corporations for business, and we can be more independently owned, if you will, from as far as business to business. And that in itself would increase prosperity for all Americans if we were to support small businesses in such a manner. And the only way to do that is to allow our children to understand what it takes and what steps you have to go through to open a business and what you need to do to maintain that business. These next two, really quick, because the class name itself explains it. A class on vehicle maintenance and another class on home maintenance. And I don't think I really need to say anything there, if I'm being honest. These next three, I'm going to do them out of order from what I have written. Gym. I do think that we should keep gym part of the curriculum. I'm not really talking about cutting anything out, but teaching our youth how to have fun without the use of a device is real important. And gym can be a gateway to that, if it's not already. Critical thinking. We don't do that enough as Americans, and I think that's something that needs to be taught, and it can be taught early on. Critical thinking is essential to life, to making good decisions, but learning from bad ones. Critical thinking can help us through diversity and equality. It can help us through budgeting. You know, it can help us through vehicle maintenance. It can help us through entrepreneurship, opening a business. It can help you through so much. Getting the right apartment. Critical thinking, I think, in my opinion, is essential to the American way of life. The last one that I have written down here, and I have a couple more after that, but is investing. Now, I have been told that some people have learned entrepreneurship and investing in the same class. That's not intelligent at all. Investing is a massive beast all onto its own. And if we want people to secure their financial freedom and their retirement, they need to understand how investing works. We don't need to get that muffled up with running a business. That's a whole nother thing unto itself. So, two separate classes that teach our children what they need to learn so that they can have a better life than what we've had. Basic nursing. You know, if somebody passes out in front of you, what do you do? If you've never been trained, you've never been shown, there's nothing you can do. You call 911, hope for the best. That ain't no way to really live. But if we learn basic nursing, we know how to treat a wound. We know what to do when somebody's having a seizure. We know what to do when somebody's having a stroke. You know, you can even tell the signs. So basic nursing would be a part of the curriculum. Survival class. It is not the last person alive at the end of the semester gets an A. It's nothing like that, but it's just more of, and this was brought to my attention, this is not something I had thought of, but what happens when the electricity grid goes down? What happens if the worst comes to worst? How do you filter water? You know, how do you make a fire? How do you hunt for food? How do you grow food? How do you build basic shelter? And this class would teach that. Law. Basic law. Not how laws are written, but what are your basic rights? Everybody needs to know that. You know, so it would be separate from police interaction, but you do need to know what your rights are. That's pretty simple there. These are the classes that I think need to be mandated. Outside of that, another part that needs to change, and this is specifically for teachers, is people learn in different ways. We need to identify, and this would go to kindergarten through 8th grade, individuals on how they learn. And that's real simple. It could be part of their school record where we can show that a person can just sit there and be told whatever the material is, and they retain it, and it's fine. If they're hands-on, they don't learn it. But other individuals, they have to be hands-on. Now, if you try to tell them, just make them sit down and listen, they don't learn. We need to incorporate different forms of learning, not just you sit in your chair and you listen to someone lecture, it's written on the chalkboard, and you have some quiet time to do some reading. That's not real learning for some people. Now, some teachers go as far as trying to make the class interactive. Well, to people who need to be hands-on, you're still sitting down, and it's not interactive. You're stationary. Some people necessarily have to move. They have to be moving. They need to be involved physically, and then their mind can transform that physical movement into knowledge. I don't know how it works. I myself can learn in two different forms, but And some people, they just need to read it. You can tell them until you're blue in the face, but if they don't read it, they'll never know. We need to identify how people learn so we can place them in the proper classes so that they can become more educated. Using the same format of teaching is not really allowing Americans to learn what they need to learn. We're only allowing people to learn that fit that format. So that would be another subject that would have to be tackled. And really, that's what I would like to do to reform our basic education system. As far as the money is concerned, we need to be more intellectual with our spending. We need to be able to cut out spending in other forms so that we can put money into better areas of our federal budget, like education. So, I really don't have anything else. And I guess with that, I'll go ahead and end this video. Please remember that you can Google my name, and it will direct you to Facebook or YouTube. I'd love to hear your comments. I'm not really getting any. If you like the video, please go ahead and do that whole thumbs up thing. Please share it. That's the most important thing. People need to hear what I have to say. If you want things to change, people have got to hear it. So, but kudos to our teachers for doing the best they can with what they have. Our teachers do a good job. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mun Larimer, and I'm running for President of the United States. You all have a wonderful day.